Hi everyone, welcome to Lunchtime with a Librarian. My name is Catherine. I'm a reference librarian here at the Haverford Township Free Library, and I am joined by Nikki Senecal, the president of our Friends of the Library. Thanks so much for joining us today, Nikki.
Thanks for having me.
So let's go ahead and get started with our questions. Do you want to tell me a little bit about yourself and what you do for the Friends?
Sure. I live with my husband, Peter Stokes, and our rescue dog, Frida, in Havertown, where we've been for almost 15 years. I'm the director of donor relations at Swarthmore College, and as you said, the president of the Friends. The mission of the Friends is to fundraise for, promote and advocate on behalf of the library, and so those are some of the things that I do for the library.
Fantastic. And how long have you been on the board, and how long have you been the president?
I have been, that was not on the list of questions you
Sorry.
I have been on the board, I think, since, for 10 years, I think, since 2010, yes. And I have been the president for the past 3 years.
Okay, fantastic. What is your favorite thing about the Friends board, and especially being the president?
Well, definitely it's the people. We have a really great board of people, you know, and the sort of exciting thing with working with people who are willing to be on the Friends is that they all love libraries, right? And then you have the library staff that you're also working with, and we have a terrific library staff. I adore the library. It's really the intellectual center of our community, and it's a truly democratic, small d, democratic space where everybody can come and you can, rich or poor, you can come and check out a book, attend a program, or just, well, you used to be able to just sit and enjoy the air conditioning. I'm not so sure you're gonna ask people to come and just hang out all day these days, but it is a place for everyone, and I think that that's so important.
Absolutely. Is that sort of similar, but is that what drew you to libraries, or were you always kind of around them as a kid? Or
I started reading before I went to school, and so libraries were just a good, like, cost-saving measure for me, for my parents.
Yeah.
I was trying to think a little bit about libraries in my youth, and I don't really remember going to libraries before school, but I do remember going to the school library and all of the sort of treasures that I discovered there, usually on my own. I just really was, like, even then, like, one of those people that just was willing to wander around and see what grabs my attention. And I remember also my mother, when my sister started school, so I have a younger sister, and when she went to school, my mother went back to college, and she was studying early childhood education, and she took me to the University of New Hampshire library with her, and the library that she was using was for the education majors, and so it had this huge children's book collection, and, like, bigger than any, it was, first of all, the university library was bigger than any library ever, right? And then to have this collection that was probably bigger than the collection of my local library, it was just so exciting. So I guess I've always just been excited to hang around books.
Amazing. Yeah.
That makes me really, like, you're so fascinating.
So what are some of your favorite books then?
So I majored in English, so this kind of question always just, like, breaks my heart that I have to make choices, but the one that I always tell people about is Nicole Krauss's A History of Love. I don't know if you have read that, okay, but it's just so beautiful. And when I was halfway through I just couldn't stand the idea of not having this book to read. Yeah. So I put it down for a couple of years, and my husband finally read it, and then he said, you have to finish this book. And so I went back to it, and it was just all these threads that I had thought were so beautiful just got tied together in this really magical way. And so it's a book that if people don't like it, I don't want to hear about it. I'm gonna not like you anymore.
Yes. Well, I have to read that one. I'm excited. Do you have a favorite genre? Are you a fiction person, nonfiction?
So I read a lot of fiction. If I'm listening to a book like on audio, I'll definitely, it's definitely nonfiction. But I do read a lot of fiction. I read a lot of literary fiction, but that, makes sense. I was an English major. So, but I also read a lot of mysteries, and I will read even ones that are like not that good. I read mysteries. I love reading mysteries. So yes, I do have a favorite genre.
Okay, nice. What were some of your favorite books when you were growing up?
So Nancy Drew and Encyclopedia Brown are kind of obvious if you end up being the kind of great mystery reader that I am. I also really enjoyed the Melendi Quartet. So I'm a lot older than you, so these were old even when I was a kid, so they probably aren't books that people read anymore. But it was this group, or they were siblings. There were 4 of them, and they lived with their father, who was an economics professor, and their mother was dead, and they had this housekeeper, and in the first book, they go on these adventures, and it's just, I think it was, even when I was growing up, it's probably not like it is today, but there was just like more adult supervision, and in this book, there's just like so little adult supervision. I think that was part of what drew me to those books. And another book I really enjoyed was From the Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Basil E. Frankweiler.
I remember that one. I loved that book.
And I gave it to one of my nieces when she was about the right age to read it, and she really loved it. And now she's an art student, and I don't know if there's any connection, but I do have 2 6-year-old nieces now, and I'm really looking forward to introducing them to the concept of running away to a museum. Don't tell my sister.
So aside from reading, what are some of your hobbies or interests, or just what you've been doing recently?
So I do a lot of crafts. I do cross stitch and make cards. I also like to cook and bake, and I've been doing a lot of that recently. In fact, one of my projects during the past 5 months has been to go through all of my cookbooks, trying all of the chocolate chip cookie recipes.
Ooh, have you found a favorite yet, or a best one?
I think our favorite is from Amy Thielen's the New Midwestern Table. She has, it's a regular chocolate chip cookie recipe, although it makes a ton. We were eating those for a long time. It has a cup of peanut butter in it, and so it really adds a nice layer.
Yeah, nice. I would not have thought of that. So where do you have a bucket list, I guess, or like a travel destination in mind? We've got a lot of time to think about it now.
Yeah, we just had a trip to Italy canceled in March, so we enjoy traveling. We travel a lot. I don't know if we have a bucket list. I mean, my goal is to go everywhere. I really enjoy traveling. I like the sort of slightly outside of my comfort zone I get from traveling. Or some recent trips we took were to Portugal and to Denmark.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, I don't think that we are sitting around planning anything right now. What we do have, actually, that said, we have been on this slow journey across the United States, trying different kinds of barbecue. Ooh. So we have been to North Carolina, Kansas City, and Memphis, and we are still planning on going to Texas and Kentucky as part of that trip.
Very cool. And so where were you going to go in March? We
were going to go to Italy.
Oh, no.
Yeah, my niece in art school was studying abroad, and we went to visit her.
Oh my gosh. Well,
it was, so I've been thinking about the pandemic since early February.
Yeah, I guess so. Oh, that's unfortunate. If you could live in any book universe or the world of any book, what would you choose?
So I love this question when you sent it to me. So I posted on my Facebook page, and almost everybody who responded said like a fantasy novel.
Yeah.
And I don't read fantasy, and it's like totally not my genre. So I started thinking about like, where are there places, what books have places that are like a character? And so that what that led me to was Louise Penny's Armand Gamache series, The Three Pines.
Yeah.
Town is the where, well, it's interesting because the detective lives in Quebec, and like all the crime happens in this tiny little village in the middle of nowhere. But the more I thought about it, I mean, first of all, it's very remote, and the only way you can find it is if you get lost. So it's very remote, and there's long winters. So I'm not like really keen on going there, and I'm especially not keen on going there because the newcomer is always either the murder victim or the murderer, right? So what I like to visit maybe, but not stay.
That's fair. I like that. We've been doing a lot of these kinds of programs in the past couple months. Have you had one that you've been watching or that has stood out to you?
Well, because I like to cook and bake, and because I used to attend the cookbook club, I have been watching Mary's Kickin' Cookin' in Quarantine, which I practiced saying.
It's hard to say.
It is hard to say. Yeah, so I've been watching her make things and get some inspiration for my own cooking here.
Yeah. What are you reading right now? Do you have multiple going?
No, it's actually, I haven't really been reading since March. I knew we were going for work from home, and because we had planned to be in Italy, I had taken a few days off right before our last day in the office. And so I made a special trip to the library knowing I was going to be stuck at home. And I had a ton of books, and I returned them in June, all unread. I just haven't been able to focus enough to read. Yeah, so I thought rather than just talk to you about something I read in the past, that it's a good idea to talk a little bit about not being able to read and what that, is like.
Yeah, I've been kind of in the same boat. I mean, I go through fits and starts where I can focus enough to, read one or two or listen to something, but it's hard to focus on something so outside of what's going on right now.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And finally, what advice would you give to someone who wants to be in the world of libraries?
So I think it's the advice I have, since I'm a little bit library adjacent rather than a librarian, is the advice I would give to anybody who is thinking about a career, and that is talk to people who are in it. People who love it, people who only like it, and the people who've left it. I think they're all going to bring a little bit more to your understanding of the field. I think you should find out how they got where they are, what they like about the work, what they don't like about the work, what they would change if they had the power to change something, and what they think the field is going to be like in 5 to 10 years. Because, for people who are just starting out, there's like a lot of work to do to get to be a librarian. And so you need to be thinking ahead, I think. And I think, even that said, I think you should not put too much stock in any one person's opinions, but really listen to everybody. I think when I was deciding to go to graduate school, I was invited by one of my coworkers to meet his girlfriend, who was in graduate school at the time in English. And she and her friends were sitting around, and they were doing two things. One, they were talking about these like intellectual ideas, and it was so exciting to me that I wasn't hearing the other thing they were saying, which was just a lot of complaining and a lot of worry and anxiety, I think, about what their lives were going to be like at the end of graduate school. And I think that had I listened a little bit more, I might have not had to go through some of the same sort of pains, I think, in the end.
That's excellent advice.
Well, thank you.
Thank you so much for talking with me today. This has been so interesting.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.